Okay, now that we have finally put our prefab together for the slot window, we've got all the images there. We can set one to be active and the others to be inactive and stuff. And now we're ready to start putting together the simple animation for having the slot window select one of those slot icons. Okay, so first thing I'm going to need is I'm going to need a button. Because I need to be able to do this. So I will go ahead and add component. And that component will be a user interface. It will be a TextMesh Pro button. And I'll switch over here to scene real quick and grab it and move it down here. And let's see, should I resize it? Probably, because I am going to call this, if I can find the text, oh yes, the text is a child of it, and rather than saying button, it will say pull lever. You've all seen slot machines like that. Okay, and I'll go ahead and make it a little smaller. Okay, and so that looks pretty enough. I mean, we're not going for science here because this is an example project to show you how things work rather than trying to make anything polished at this point. Okay, so I've got that button. It'll be a new button here. I will call it the slot, excuse me. There we go. Now it'll let me edit it. Button slot lever. Okay. And so now I'm going to go and I'm going to touch the scripts, which is where most of this video will be concerned with. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the button handler. Okay. And we're going to need a new button handler script, or excuse me, a new button handler function. Public void pull slot lever. And this seems like, or this may seem like it's doing a lot of extra code writing to do all the same thing. But what I'm doing is I'm encapsulating stuff. So the button should only need to know what it needs to know to be a button. So it knows that, gee, I'm pressed and I should trigger something. But I don't necessarily need to know what it is that I'm triggering. So that will be in main, and that will be pull slot lever. And I could have just as well pointed that to the script that is, the slot roller script, because that's the one that's actually going to handle the slot rolling. But this encapsulation then puts main in the middle, and main can decide what buttons it handles, and main can also decide what interface or what happens when one of those events is triggered. So in other words, if I were to change the slot script out for something else, some other method of rolling a slot script, all I have to do is tell it a different function to call, and I don't have to go hunting through all the buttons to see which button I need to change. I just go find that in main. Okay, so main is the sort of central clearinghouse for everything. Okay, so the button doesn't know anything about the slot window. The slot window won't know anything about the button. Main stands in between them both, and they both talk to main. Okay, so this is the thing that triggers the main. And then, main is just simply, at this point, what did I call that? Pull slot lever. Pull slot lever. Okay. And that's going to call something in the slot window. items. Okay, so I need to make that accessible so that now it can find that. And this one is kind of a fun one too, because now I'm going to use the generic, but the generic for this is the script. And that script, if I go and look, is slot roller. So go back to this and put slot roller in there. And now I can call a function within slot roller, which will be the roll slots. Okay. All right, so just a reminder, for generics, generic is a type. So get component will get any kind of component. I specifically want a slot roller type. Slot roller is is the script which is added to slot window, and so that's how it associates that. Okay, so the name of the class actually becomes the type that we look for. And then once I've got that, that's what this function returns, then I can call a function within that script, which is roll slots, which we haven't written yet. Okay, so that'll be the next thing that we write. And that has to be public. So that it can be found. And then what do I want to do? I am going to just copy this whole thing, but I'm going to change the item that it brings forward. Control V. Okay, so I got that there. How did I end up with an extra? Oh, I know how. Okay. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to change which one it does. So I'll do 2, which as I recall is the bar. Okay. And so it should show the bar when you press the button now. And this is just a test of the button. Okay. So I've got those all done. I've touched all 3 of my scripts to get this wired together. And I'm not done yet. So I'm going to File, Save All. Doesn't look like any problems were found there. Let it recompile in Unity. Doesn't look like Unity found any problems. Now this is pre-run, so it may still find problems when we run it. But there's a few other things I have to do now. I've got my button, okay, and I need to set its on click, right? So let's see, button on click. I add what we're going to do, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the button handler. And now when I, pull down the button handler, hello. That's interesting. We're not running. Button handler should be done. It should have public void enable, pull slot. So it should have that in there, just like we did with the other buttons. So why is it not showing up? Button handler. Okay, I have done something wrong. What have I failed to do here? Button slot lever. Okay, event system button handler. Oh, silly me. I'm trying to bring the actual script in rather than the object. Okay, so let me do this right. Again, I don't mind you seeing these mistakes because you do enough programming languages and you get things mixed up and backwards and wrong and stuff. And so when you do, you just have to figure them out. And that is exactly what I was doing. So button slot lever, find the on click, get this button handler in here. And now, now I get the button handler script and I get all the things. And so I've got pull slot lever in there now. Okay. And pull slot lever should trigger everything else in a cascade. We will see how it works. Okay. So let me go back to game, run it. This is where we see if the script has any errors at compile time. It didn't. It started. By default, it put the heart up. Okay. And when I click on pull lever, I got an error. Let's see what the error says. Oh, the variable. Okay. Unassigned reference exception. The variable slot window of main has not been assigned. You probably need to assign the slot. Okay. So again, little things when you wire these things together. So main now has a new new variable in there, a new public variable for slot window, and I forgot to wire that in. And so that's easy enough to do. I just take slot window, wire it over there, okay, file, save, run it. Okay, and it started the way it's supposed to, and if I pull lever, there we go, I got the bell. Okay, so it did actually change. So the button is working, and that's all we've done this time. Okay, the next time we come back, we're actually going to show how we get the thing to show all the icons in order and stop at a random icon, which will be the icon that is the selected one. Okay, so that's for the next one.